Ladies and gentlemen, people of all gender expressions, thank you for checking out the North Bank Media Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Strevens. Joining me on the show this morning from right here in Edmonton, Alberta, Mike and Becky Newhook, a married couple, a power couple in the truest sense of the word, in my estimation. They are founders and operators of Vertical Roots Canada. Okay, Vertical Roots is it's an urban farm on Edmonton's south side. It's a hydroponics operation producing hundreds and hundreds, if not 1,000 or more heads of lettuce and other leafy greens per week. That is a lot of lettuce. I see kale on the menu. I see romaine. This is high quality stuff. You're paying a premium for it, but it is, if you value what you put in your body, this is what you want to be eating. Definitely check out verticalroots.ca for their menu, because there's a subscription service. There's also a delivery service. So if you're not able to make it out to a local farmer's market, they can bring it right to you. An innovative business, I would say, and a really interesting story. Mike, for one, he's sort of a mad genius entrepreneur, and you'll really enjoy hearing him tell his story. No real experience in farming up to this point, up until the last few years. Learned a pretty costly lesson running a hydroponics operation in the Philippines, and he talks about that, but has gone on to find success and personal success, as well as the business success with Vertical Roots. I really enjoyed this conversation. In a lot of ways, it's a benchmark for what this podcast is about. It's people who have taken the risk, people who are going down the road of starting something, an enterprise, and trying to serve their community, and in the process, learning about themselves. So really enjoyed talking to Mike and Becky. It was a great chance for me to just lay back, and I really let two wise and experienced people tell their story and offer some insight into what it means to run a business, what it means to raise a family, and all the things in between, and what it means to be ourselves or become ourselves, right? So it's, again, a real, I don't want to say boilerplate, but a real benchmark or a high watermark for what this podcast wants to be. So again, Vertical Roots Canada, they're on the south side of Edmonton. Check them out at verticalroots.ca. In the meantime, enjoy this one, a great one, a conversation with Mr. Mike and his wife, Becky Newhook. All right, well, Mike and Becky Newhook, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast. I'm excited to hear about this business of yours. It's pretty innovative, I would say, and all that. So again, and thanks for being open to doing this.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Well, and it's what it's all about, is saying yes. I found that Instagram is a strange and wonderful place, and it's a good way to meet people. So
True.
I guess maybe just for my listeners and for my sake, why don't you just sort of tell me about Vertical Roots, as far as what's like the elevator pitch, if you had a minute alone with someone important, to what do you guys do that nobody else does?
That's a good question. You said they weren't going to be difficult questions.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. Do you want to take that one, Beck? I mean, an elevator pitch. Actually, I'm curious to see what yours is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll try mine.
Sure.
I'll try mine first, because I'm the one that sells it all day long. So I guess the one thing is, like, we're a vertical farm that grows with no spraying, no chemicals, and it is a higher quality product, and it lasts a long time. We definitely are in an agriculture field that is growing and really trending right now because of the sustainability. And you can grow thousands and thousands of head of lettuce in such a minimal amount of space, and the usage of water. So based on all these like trending ways, and of course the quality of the product, the value is there, and the no chemicals, it's just one of the best products that I've ever tasted. And I'm not biased, because I love lettuce. I've eaten salads all my life. I've added it to my diet all my life, and I can't eat anything else. This is just the cleanest, freshest product you'll ever find, from in like miles and miles from here. I've never tasted anything like it.
Yeah.
You want to pick it up?
Is that right?
Seems right. And when we talk about the product, it's lettuce specifically, hey, or leafy greens right now. That's all you guys do?
Lettuce, kale, arugula, basil, anything leafy green, I guess. It's probably the best way to summarize it. But
I think, Mike, you should give your pitch for the business, because you come from a different angle, and I think it's better than mine.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I had someone ask me the other day, like, how in the world did you get into farming? Like, did you grow up on a farm? Are you from a farming community? And like, it's interesting, because I grew up very tech minded. So I spent a lot of years in the IT world.
Okay.
And when I went from IT to our other company in Canmore, which was a waste management company, people were like, well, why are you in waste management? I wish I could say like I'm a real earth, that's my direct, but it's not. Like I think I see an opportunity as an entrepreneur. I see a challenge and I go for it. And I think the thing for me, if I was to summarize Vertical Roots Canada, a little bit of the history of the company, was birthed in the Philippines. We started with aquaponics, which is fish in water. I had never planted a seed in my life, never grew anything.
Wow.
I loved gardens, loved farming. I loved going to farms, being on farms with animals and things. But we had known these people for almost 20 years. They were farmers. We went back, we saw that they were still struggling and they were still trying to grow, efficiently in all seasons. And so that's what sparked it. Here in Canada, I think there's a part of me that just wants to prove that you don't need multi-millions to do what we're doing.
Right.
So it's a little bit like I've got a something to prove, in a sense, like I said, you don't need millions to do this. And food security is really not solved, in our opinion, by multi-million dollar operations, trying to employ people and keep up the standard. Like, I just think that we're trying to prove that. And we made a decision, I don't know, halfway through the business, since we've been in business almost a year and a half, that we are going to be a higher, like Becky said, a higher premium product with a higher price point. But we're not out to overfeed our plants, pump them full of nitrates, get them out the door in 20 days so that we can profess that. We want a good quality product that sells itself. And I think that's business 101, and that'd be my elevator pitch.
Cool. Well, there's a lot of interesting stuff there. I guess I am curious. Like, I looked at your prices. You charge what you charge, and that's fair. Who is the ideal customer? Like, who is it? Is it a certain income bracket, or is it a certain person who with a certain set of values who comes to you guys? Like, who's buying this lettuce?
Yeah, for me, I find we have a wide demographic. These are people that care about their health. Number one, they are very health conscious when it comes to what they're going to put inside their body. And like, especially the last couple of years, people have gotten very, very aware of what they put in their body and where the product is from. So based on health and based on local product, people are really becoming very obsessed with, and in a very good way, of supporting local businesses. So instead of buying that pack of romaine from California that sat on a truck and was mass produced and the nutrient level is super, super low, you pay more for the product from a local farmer that's local to this country. And it lasts probably 2 to 3 times longer than the product you got for cheap. So these I don't know demographically, I don't think when it comes to like income, I have seen many different, middle of the road families purchasing our product in our subscriptions because they care about the product that they put in their bodies. And then I guess the other thing is they really appreciate the quality, because their lettuce that they buy from the store is going bad in 2 to 3 days. So if you're spending like $2.99 on something and it's bad in 2 days, then you actually just threw away $3. So instead of spending that, go and spend $6 and let it last for 2 weeks. If you don't get to it, it's still a good product. So that's kind of the demographic. They value their bodies and they value local farmers or local products. And we land in both those categories.
Beautiful.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, obviously someone on a fixed actually, I stop what I'm saying. I think I'm surprised, even we were at the market yesterday, elderly people, on fixed income are coming in loyally to buy our product because according to them, it tastes way better. They can literally taste the healthiness of it, and they like us and they want to buy a local product. And I think, like, I grew up in a not so wealthy family, and it wasn't put into us to buy healthy food because of it wasn't affordable, right? But I think that's changing. I think people are repurposing their money and should repurpose to healthy food. I think it's very important.
Because kind of the wisdom, the prevailing wisdom, or the cliche is that people's health is deteriorating in the West. You're kind of seeing the opposite in your community, that people are valuing healthy food more these days, or maybe more than when you were growing up, let's say.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've always wanted to use a tagline that's like the way lettuce should have been, or like something like the way lettuce was meant to be, or because I think we've just used lettuce as a garnish, or like, years ago, kale was just a garnish, right? Like if you remember back to going to a restaurant, kale was just on the side. And I remember like in my teens and early 20s saying, what is this? Like, and trying it and being like, oh, gross.
Right.
But now like, it's like people eat it straight, or they put it in the oven and they make chips out of it, or they mix it with their salads because they understand the value of what's in that food. So I just think it's just an awareness that's come. And I think that lettuce actually is high in vitamin K and A, and it does carry nutrients if it's fed the right way. And it isn't, toxic because of the high nitrogen. So what a lot of bigger farms will do is they'll pump it full of nitrogen. They'll spray it with nitrogen to get it to grow faster, which makes it not healthy because it's trying to produce faster than it was genetically made to. And so then it doesn't absorb all the nutrients, and that's just the way it is. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you would say, obviously your product would you say it's organic? Obviously there's no, or how does that work in your mind?
We're not allowed to say that, but because actually, years ago, I did this studying in the Philippines because we wanted to be an organic farm. And it's interesting because everybody thought we were organic anyway. So I didn't even have to train people to say that, but to them it was clean. And that means organic, but organic really means regenerating the soil. And so we don't grow in soil. So it's very difficult for us to get the word organic with our product because we're not using soil. We're not regenerating the soil. So we kind of lean toward ethically grown and clean. And that's kind of where our language lands, because we seed it and it goes into the farm, and it never gets touched again until it gets transplanted one more time, and then it's harvested. So it's never sprayed. There's nothing, like, we don't have issues with bugs here. We don't have deficiencies in our lettuce. So we're not spraying junk on there right now. There are some organic sprays you can put, like some fertilizers and things to help with the plants, but we just haven't got there. We've looked into it, but so I don't know if I could say we're organic. We like to say, Becky, what do you say?
Better than organic.
Better than organic.
Right.
We know what goes in and what we're putting out every week, right?
Right. And we should be clear that you guys are called vertical roots because of, you basically grow this lettuce in vertical hydroponic racks. Is that where the name comes from?
Yeah. So I won't give you a lesson in hydroponics. There's multiple ways to grow in hydroponics. There's one of the ways that we're growing is deep water culture. It's not really deep water. It's only 4 to 6 inches, but that's the name, DWC. And so what that means is we grow in a 4x8 bed, or a table, it's called, and in 4 to 6 inches of water. And that water is oxygenated and bubbled. And then the plants literally float in a raft. So their roots are constantly getting oxygen and the nutrients that they need, along with air movement. And so, we can grow in our farm here. We could grow up to 14 feet high, which would give us 4 levels, 60 feet long.
Sure.
So there are other ways with this NFT, which is very popular overseas because of the cost of material.
Okay.
It's like a tube with 1.5 inches of water, and the water constantly runs through there, and it's oxygenated at the source, and then it gets pumped through and it just recirculates. And but here it's harder to get product, and there's a lot of negatives to that way of growing. So
that's the form of hydroponics I was familiar with, like in Trailer Park Boys, and they're growing dope. It's those long tubes with the holes cut in them.
And the issue with that for us is the water temperature. So when you're pumping, let's say 2,000 gallons of water, the farther away it gets, the warmer it gets, right? So now indoors in a controlled environment with the ambient temperature, say at 21, our water temperature stays at, say, 21 or 20, right? So it would probably stay the same. But when you start running long distances, it's just the nature of actually moving water warms up. People don't realize, like, a river's colder because the water is moving. It's not really true. There's kinetic energy that happens in the water when it's moving. And so when you when you move water like that, and then as it gets farther away from the source, over time it'll just mix back with the reservoir. But not only that, but there's a lot more bacterial issues that happen because now you've opened that hole where the plant is. Air can get in. So if you've got stuff in the air and it gets in, and then things can grow and bad bacteria grows. And I prefer deep water culture. It's just something that we prefer. Yeah.
And on an operating cost level, for one, it seems like you could physically have more lettuce growing on a square foot, but like beyond that, like versus a traditional farm, is the operating cost typically lower in hydroponics?
Yes. So hydroponics, like compared to conventional farming, you mean? Or
yeah.
I don't really know. I just know that we can grow more per square foot. There is some math out there. I've never been that guy that pumps that information, but I know that we can grow a lot more in a condensed area. Okay. Our biggest cost is electricity, as everybody has experienced in the last 6 months. Electricity rates have just gone through the roof, and I wish our government would do something about agriculture, and companies that are trying to do something for the community or for the betterment of people instead of just profit, right? I say that lightly, but if you got a guy down the road who's, multi-million-dollar company building widgets or something that doesn't really better the world in a sense, but you got people down here trying to grow and they're paying the same electricity or the same distribution fees. I just think that there should be something done to encourage people to do it, because I was paying $600-700 a month for electricity in our prototype room out in the rural country of Alberta. Since moving here to the city, now we've increased our lights and so on.
Right.
But we've almost tripled that cost. And our distribution fees in this city are equivalent to what we pay in electricity. So if I spend $700 in electricity, I'm paying $700 to get that electricity.
Just to get it.
This building has been here for 80 years. They're not changing wires and infrastructure every year. So our money is going into infrastructure to build out the city. I just think that there should be something for incentive for people that want to grow,
That's a great point. I did want to hear a bit about that, and I'm glad you went there. What's it been like for you? Because I know you moved from a rural setting into the city, but maybe on a municipal level, dealing with the city of Edmonton, how was that getting set up? Did they help you or not?
It was so easy.
It was amazing.
Wonderful.
I think I'm a very intuitional. I'm an intuitional person. I'm always thinking of new ideas, and my brain is in 100 places all the time. I've always got business ideas, but one thing, when I'm on task, I get very detailed. And so I did the work. I did the research. I made the phone calls. I filled in the form. I was very clear. We're not changing the HVAC. We're not changing this. We're not changing that. I researched the bylaw, submitted it, and Beck, 7 days, 8 days later, I had my license in the mail or in the email. You've been approved.
But they are very forward thinking. Edmonton is forward thinking, because how many years ago, Mike, did they already have this zoned?
Yeah, 2000 and I could be wrong, 2016, but I want to say 2009. Okay. But they had a bylaw in place for certain parts of the city for urban indoor farming, including
already in place,
including hydroponics and aquaponics, which I thought was really forward. We're talking a decade or more. And I haven't seen a lot of urban farms popping up in Edmonton, but I was impressed with that. I think that's pretty impressive.
No, that's great to hear. Because we should be clear, because you're on the south side somewhere. You're in an industrial area, in a warehouse, essentially growing lettuce in racks.
Yeah, we're kind of off Parsons Road and 34th Avenue kind of area. Okay. So it's a medium density commercial. It's not necessarily industrial in the sense there's people making petroleum beside us, but
that's good.
It's rated for what we do. Around the corner is a big greenhouse operation that grows flowers. And they've been here for years, I think. So the zoning is there and the power is here. And so I would say I'm super impressed with Edmonton, actually. Okay. I've never built a business here. And I would say that if you do the work and you pay attention, I think it could be a very simple process.
Oh, wonderful. That was not the answer I was expecting, but it's the one I was hoping for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, let me say this. I started watching a couple of your podcasts and things, and I know one of the guys was saying he was a Christian. Well, we operate that way, and so we kind of feel like we had, a little bit of favor too. And
okay,
and because in the middle of what we were doing, it was a stressful time in life, and I don't know if I could have went down the path of having to answer and having to get permits, and I'm not sure that I would want to have done that. So it was really nice that it was a simple process.
Right on.
That makes sense. Yeah.
No, that's great to hear. We should. Yeah. I mean, this podcast is kind of going after entrepreneurs and small business people, especially in Edmonton. So that's good to hear that at least it's you can get in, you can get your foot in the door, and you at least see what you have to do clearly.
Yeah.
I want to maybe I'll change it up a little bit here. And Mike, you've told me two interesting things. One is that maybe you have some kind of ADD or some kind of I have it too. So I don't mean to offend you. But
that's a compliment if that's all I got.
There you go. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly right. We'll get there. I guess you say your mind's all over the place and you're always thinking of ideas, and also you'd never actually farmed before. So Becky, what's it been like to kind of go on this ride with this mad genius? Tell me about that. The interplay between running a business as a married couple, that can't be easy, I would think.
I'm just gonna pause you guys. I mean, I gotta get my charger. I'm so sorry.
That's
my
okay.
Battery rapidly falling here. So Becky, if you want to take that,
that's perfect.
I just turn my video off.
Now she can say whatever the hell she wants.
Exactly.
Now I'm free to, no.
Give us the dirt.
In answer to your question, I think it is a wild ride. I think that, I don't know. We live together, work together, sleep together, parent together. We now have this new space where there's offices and there's the farm. We used to work from home all the time for many, many, many years. So there has been a separation of that, but we're together a lot. And I think that we love hard and we fight hard. I would just have to say that. And I think that we're really human and we don't do this perfectly at all. And we have to learn our ways. We've been together almost 22 years, and we have known each other for probably close to 25. We were best friends. So we got married as best friends. And that's kind of how everything got, how we got together. And we never even probably dreamed of being entrepreneurs ever. Mike was going to be a pastor, and I was going to be a missionary. And we went to the Philippines and we got married 6 weeks later and did some feeding programs and worked with youth. So where we are now, I think when we were together and we were engaged, and he went to Canadian Tire and he quit after the first day. And my family's Dutch and we work, and you just work no matter what. You just get your job and you work and you make money and you do what you got to do. And that's how I was raised. So for him to come home and we're engaged and he says, "Oh, I quit. I'm not working for $6.50 an hour. And there's just so many problems with this business." I was like, oh my gosh, my dad is going to have a flip. And so there's this. And so I think for several years, we're trying to go after what we think we should be or what we feel someone told us we should be, or going after these giftings that look like people oriented or helping people, serving people. And fighting it the whole time, just not finding what we were supposed to do and being frustrated. And then I find a business for sale and she gives it to us on payment plan, and we're broke and we're in debt and we have kids that are 1 year apart, 1.5 and 2.5. And so we launch ourselves as being entrepreneurs, business owners by accident. And all of a sudden, my husband starts to come alive, and he starts to think about this business, and we start to build it. And then a year and a half later, we are hiring people and we're not doing it ourselves. And we sold it for $100,000. We bought it for 10. Nice. So all of a sudden we're oh, so then he starts another company. He starts the IT company, and that grows. And then we have a marriage crisis because we're all working too hard and we're not paying attention and our money is going everywhere and we fail. We just fall and we fail. So we get up and we try again. And so we have the marketing company. That's what we've been building we built it for probably 7-8 years. And so he's always thinking about something new.
Right.
which can be really hard for me because I'm more like task oriented and I want to really like, let's just do what we're doing. I have no desire to really, like, if I have what I need, I'm really happy. I do not need more. And so that's would drive him crazy because he's like always going for something new, adventure, and thinking outside of the box. And so when the marketing company, I run it, I'm the one that manages our marketing company and the teams there.
Okay.
So I think he got bored and he started playing around in the Philippines with aquaponics, and now we're here with a commercial vertical farm in Edmonton. But none of this would happen if he wasn't like having a million thoughts in his brain, because he's building a prototype and he's building this thing in the back of the garage and he's thinking and he's always testing and researching. So it can be super annoying. And he's like a mad scientist because he doesn't have like everything put away and everything's perfectly like in order. But that's how his brain works. And he seems to thrive in creation and problem solving.
A lot better, by the way.
Oh yeah.
You know,
We've grown quite
not
a
being
bit.
defensive at all. I'm not. I'm saying I've gotten a lot more focused. Like I took over our finances for all the businesses, our personal.
Oh wow.
3-4 years ago.
No, like 6 years ago, and it's awesome.
Yeah, so I've become much more focused. I think I would say, like, as a husband with a wife who's different personality, like just being an entrepreneur, I've seen some disasters. Like I've seen guys just go and leave their wives behind. I think we've done really well at working together, making decisions together, processing together. And I think that's really important. And I think that we don't give ourselves a lot of credit for that because it just comes natural to us, but that's how we function.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that was a very revealing portrait of what's going on over there. And I still want to keep talking to you. So that's a good thing.
Okay.
That's nice.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear, just FYI, I guess I'll have to cut this out, but this meeting is going to end in 10 minutes because I cheaped out on my Zoom plan. If that happens, I'll send you guys a new link and we'll pick it up.
Okay, sure.
But we've got time. Talk to me maybe about, well, actually what I want to hear about, Mike, is this idea of focus, because I think that is where a lot of entrepreneurs can fail because they get like the shiny object syndrome, they're chasing. What is focus in your mind? Like, is it a matter of listing things that are important in order of importance and drilling down, or do you just keep bouncing and it all gets done? What does it look like in your mind to, she's laughing, but it's your turn.
You know what?
It's
like
your turn.
You're pulling on my like daily bug battle. Like if I could be brutally honest and raw, like I wake up and I think farm. I go to bed, I think farm. I'm out for dinner, I think, like, so for me, focus is, I've always struggled with being present.
Okay.
Not because I'm an entrepreneur, but just like in the moment, satisfied with the moment.
Impossible.
And like, I don't blame that on being an entrepreneur or I just, it's just me, and I'm constantly working on it. So I think for me, practically, like taking Facebook off my phone so I don't get stuck in the wheel of the reel, watching 1,000 videos,
Totally.
like trying to. And then when I, because I've watched tons of things about being an entrepreneur and how you need to be planned and you need to write everything down. And like, that just scares me doing that. So when we talk about focus, I think I being on the other side of the marketing company, I've seen a lot of companies waste weeks and weeks on their logo and their website. And like I had a saying years ago when I was in the marketing company, if you build it, they won't come. So you can build the most beautiful logo, the most beautiful website. You could have all the information and then wake up the next morning and no one comes to your website. So like I think Becky built the logo for Vertical Roots. Actually, Becky came up with the name. I was in the little farm there working. She came in, she goes, I've got it. And I'm like, what? The name. And so like I've learned to focus on things that have purpose and make money. So I think for me, number one, my focus is like I could go off into 10 different little cool things to do in the farm, but then I catch myself saying, whoa, okay, what will generate revenue? Where is this $10,000 best spent? Not in ideas. And so, and I don't know that I have ADHD, which I know you're making a joke, but I think for me, I just have to constantly catch myself. Okay, what's important now? You know, like I can really run off on just research.
Right.
And, you know, I haven't met a huge amount of entrepreneurs, but I've met a lot. I think there's a lot of people who have an idea, right? Who call themselves an entrepreneur. And that's not really what an entrepreneur is, someone who starts a business. I mean, there's a great book called The Entrepreneurial Revolution. It talks about the 100 years of the Industrial Revolution and now this new era of entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs just have a purpose they want to succeed, they want to prove, they want to do something of value and take on a challenge. And it really has nothing to do with an idea, or it's a whole world change for me. I've been reading it on and off again and just thinking like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm not trying to save the planet with my small farm.
Right.
You know, I mean, if I did 1,000 heads a week and I divided that by 10, I could feed 100 families. I mean, there's probably 800,000 families in Edmonton, right?
Yeah.
So we started just revamping, going, you know what, we can be part of that solution. And I'm okay with not being a millionaire in business. Like, I've had to get my focus off of being successful, having the largest farm, the most successful, the fastest growing lettuce. Like, you see all those pictures on Instagram, Facebook, big tall towers and people, you know, these massive $400 million investments. Like, I realize I'll never be there. And that's focus for me. It's like, no. This is what I have. This is what I've been trusted with. This is what in our belief system, God has trusted to us. And so now we're stewarding this. And so I'm not going to look in envy. Like, envy still exists. Right. You know, it's still one of the 7 deadly sins, right? It's like, I don't have to envy the next guy. And yeah, I don't know, that brings a level of release of pressure for me, that I just chill and I don't get lazy. But I'm not struggling to battle inside. And I think that goes a long way. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's
not there, but
well, I can jump in there for a quick sec, because I think the one thing that I've noticed is, like, I'm very different. So like, I like to get up in the morning, have coffee, read, spend some just time meditating and being present and quiet, and then I have a routine and I thrive in that environment. And I yeah, so that's me.
Right.
And he does join. We do coffee every single morning together on the couch. We sit there, nice. We take a 30 minutes to an hour and we sit there and have coffee. So whatever that looks like every day, it's different. But I find that there's this weird cookie cutter that entrepreneurs and business owners are trying to make themselves, like all these cookie cutters. Get up at 4 a.m., get your journal out, get your book, go do your exercise, get your breakfast, go for a walk. And it is like this weird cookie cutter that you expect every single person to fall in line with this. And
everything you just said, right?
Yeah, like he will, like, that scares him. And so for me, that's like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. And so I'm a task-oriented person and I will go after that. And I will probably be successful with that cookie cutter. But for someone that is like Mike, whereas mine is, there's never probably a silent moment in his brain ever. And it's constantly going. And then to put him in a routine and a schedule, like he can do that. But I'm just saying, to put him in the 4 a.m. cookie cutter, all these books have this formula on how to be successful. It doesn't work. And it really tosses out these people that are different than me, who can't operate in that way. And so I think there was once he wanted to write a book, like, about like how you can be an entrepreneur without, doing these steps. You can just be you. So how do you thrive? How have you been created? And how do you work the best? And you answer those questions for you, because if you can do that, you can be successful, but you can't be successful trying to be someone else. And so I think that's the one thing, like, I've learned is he is like, we get along really, really well because we have a lot of the same values. We have a lot of the same likes and we enjoy doing the same things, but we're very different people. And I think just going, okay, his brain never stops. And so we just have to try and be more like, what's the word? Intentional, to make sure, like, oh, hey, like, can we not talk about investing at the family dinner just for once? Like, we don't want to talk about investing. We just want to hang out. And so we just have to be super intentional. But it definitely, he has been successful by being him. and figuring out who he is and not doing the cookie cutter. So I just don't want to marginalize people that it makes it impossible for them because they're trying to do something and they'll never be that person because it's not who they are.
That is beautiful. I think, Becky, you really touched on something important there, and I do want to hear about it again from both of you, but you said something like you can't be successful being somebody else. And Mike, you're very much also in the process of figuring out who you are, I think, through entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. So do you feel like you're in kind of your final form as people? Like, is this, I mean, and you're Christian, so would you say this is your God-given purpose to serve your community this way? Or is there more in you to give, I guess?
Yeah,
I would like to just say, no, I am not in my final form. And I think it is progressive. So I'm like, sure. No, I'm not in my final form.
Good.
I have a lot of growing to do.
Beautiful. That was a trick question.
Yeah, no, in our circle, we would say you haven't arrived, I don't even know if I've left. I don't even know if I left.
Yeah, no kidding.
No,
it's going to be messy when I arrive, I'll tell you.
I'll say it. This is how I'll say it. I'll say that I like our purpose in life is to love God, love people. That's our purpose. Mm-hmm. So whatever we do, we love people and we love God. And so that's not always easy because people, including myself, can be, I had a guy this morning, I just like sent me off the rails. It just was crazy. Like I haven't had that interaction in a long time. And I thought like the hardest people to love, are the ones that have probably the most to say that teach us the lessons we need to learn,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think I would be doing lettuce forever.
Sure.
I think at my deepest core of who I am, I love people and I'd love to train people. Not how to be an entrepreneur, but I'd like to train people on how to just ignore the noise and go for it, because I think there's a lot of people who just don't go for it. And because they don't believe they're an entrepreneur, or they don't believe they have what it takes, or they don't, I always say to myself, I'm dumb enough to go for it. Right. I don't calculate ahead. Like, I mean, that sounds terrible, but there's
you
a
can't
Bible,
in some sense, right?
There's a story that talks about, the foolish man builds his house on the sand, on the rock. But then there's another verse that talks about like how a proverb talks about it, who goes to plan a building, or maybe it's not proverb, but who plans a building without blueprints, essentially, is kind of the Mike paraphrase, right? It's like, there are just some things, like if you saw my Excel sheets and how much I planned for this farm here in Edmonton, I could literally print those all up and rip them up and be like, what a waste of time. It's like life happened and it cost, it was $25,000 more than I thought I would spend. And I didn't even get to the marketing point, which is, getting a van, getting it logoed, which we got, getting shirts, getting hats, all that kind of stuff fell by the wayside because we had to get production running and just the way it all worked, And so, you can plan, but there's that saying, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. If you fail to plan, you whatever. I don't even know. Like those things, here's what I really believe. If you really want to, I think those things ruin people. I think those sayings and those cliches, they really, they lock people into boxes, like Becky was saying, and it scares people. And isn't that fun? Like being in an adventure and like going for it. And if it doesn't work, like I remember a book I was reading called The Principle of the Path by Andy Stanley. I just had to remember it. I looked it up. It was Andy Stanley.
Okay.
And he said, progress in the wrong direction is not success. Let that one sink in. So making progress in one direction, so the world looks at it, oh, wow, you're successful. Oh, you're a millionaire. Oh, you look at you, you're number one. That's not success, progress in that direction. If that's not what you're called to do, or that's not your purpose, in our opinion, that's not success. And so I think in the last couple of years, I've just defined what is success. Like, what if it isn't about being a multi-million-dollar company and the most successful and having all the money and having all the stuff? Like, what if that's not success? What if it's just fulfilling your call and loving people?
Right. And
what if Vertical Roots only does $300,000-$400,000 a year and never gets to $1 million? Am I okay with that? Like, because
are you?
I am. I'm becoming more and more and more and more okay with it. You know, even last night being at the market, interacting with people, and not just being an exchange where I send 100 heads of lettuce to another restaurant or another business. It's like I'm
Mm.
engaging with these people. I'm having a relationship. And, um, you know, if we were to service more of a private market, we could actually lower our price. Like if I didn't have to sell, okay, $6 private and $4 wholesale, and then somewhere in the middle have a deal. But I'm going like, well, wait a minute. If I was able to sell my farm out and I lowered my price down, I can still cover my costs. I can still make money. Now I can serve more people. What a concept. Like, in my opinion, that's success. Like that would be a level of success that would separate us from 95% of the companies out there, because it's always rip off the employee, rip off people,
Right.
try and make the most money. I'm still angry. I hate my life. Let's do it all over again on Monday. Right?
Well, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of think a little bit different, and I'm like, do you really need $100,000 in profit every month to satisfy your life? Like, I think there's a bigger issue if that's what you need.
Right. Well, exactly. You're filling some kind of gap, right?
Yeah. Because it'll never fill anything, you know.
Mhm.
I've
Truly.
not been a millionaire, but we've lived comfortably for many years, and that's kind of boring after a while. I mean, it's fun and it's nice and you can do what you want, but at the end of the day, whatever's always, you know, when I'm thinking, I'm like, whatever's eating you will always be eating you until you feed it. And then when you feed it, what are you feeding it? And like, if you're feeding it the wrong thing, it's still going to be hungry. You know, it's kind of a weird thinking process, but like,
Makes sense.
I think Becky and I have really settled into like, we're okay if this thing doesn't go massive and Canada wide and multi farms and, you know.
I also think, like, to go back, like, do you think that this is our call? Like, God's called us to this, and I think that is such a big, and there's a lot of like weight that comes with that, and people live under this massive weight, especially in our some of the circles that we've been in. It's like, what's the call? What's your gifting? What should you do with your life? And I think it's a load of crap, because we have done many things over 22 years, and we've had seasons where we're like, I'm still in marketing, but he's had seasons of IT. We've had seasons where he was at a stable shoveling horse poo while I had 2 babies back to back. We've been overseas. We've lived overseas with our kids while they were teenagers, building aquaponics farms with the Filipinos. And so, like, if you would have asked me probably in every one of those seasons, I probably would have told you, oh my gosh, this is what we're going to do. This is it. Like, especially the Philippines, we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to build like 10 farms. We're going to get $1,000 a month from these farms. We're going to impact the nation of the Philippines, impact the people, and we can retire here. This is exactly what we're talking about. And I went, wait a minute. I still got like, I'm 42. I have at least like 50 plus 60 years ahead of me. No, this is not my call. Every single day is my call. Every day that I interact with my husband and my teenagers, every day that I go to the farm, every day I talk to a client, every single day I'm in partnership with God to do something amazing. Every day. And there's no heaviness, there's no weight that, oh my God, what's my call? Is this my call? It's gone. I don't need any of that. I am actually just called to love God, love myself, and love the people around me. And that's my call. So I could actually go do anything I want right now. If I can walk in those things, I am completely satisfied that if we keep vertical roots and we do 10 more around the nation of Canada, that's amazing. If we sell it in 2 years to someone that has a huge passion for hydroponics, and we go plant a farm in an orphanage and we go do that for a couple of years, I just think that there's such a weight that people take on, wondering about what they're supposed to do with their life. And it really is a season by season, moment by moment, that I just think that we walk life together. And it just makes life a little bit less stressful and a little bit easy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I get that you're Christian, but it's a spiritual thing where it's like you see the process is the mission, right? Like, it's not, there is no end.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in church. Becky grew up in church. We've been a part of churches like for seasons, decade at a time, 3 years at a time. And they all, I don't want to be like a church hater. It's not me. I'm not saying that. But I will say that even aside from Christianity, there's a lack of people in the world who know who they are. Like, and I think that's not rocket science. Just look at, our society and I would say I'm 45 and I'm still like, who am I? And like, do I fit and where do I fit? And, but I'll say that it's interesting. This is a cool point. So here we have this idea in the Philippines. We go to the Philippines. I think when all was said and done, I don't talk numbers a lot, but this is interesting. I think we spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000. Okay, so flights, living there, investing in the farm, going back 3 times, all of that stuff, right? Built this big greenhouse. We helped build another one, partnership in that, and it didn't go great. Like, I'd love to tell you that, it's super successful and it went phenomenal and we were able to grow and it was good. And then we came home and then pandemic happened. We couldn't go back. And then people couldn't leave their homes. They couldn't even go to the farm. We had a guy living there. We were sending money for him just to eat rice and live there. Really, it was so bad over there. And then we ended up giving the thing away to a student from the agricultural university. We just gave it to her. And we said, do what you can with it. We can't come back. The gentleman who was helping and worked with us for many years, he kind of went another direction. And so it kind of just like in the world or the people around that fizzled out, that wasn't successful. Okay. And I was afraid to talk about that for a long time because I'm like, well, that's failure. And I don't want to look like I failed. And then one day my smart wife says, well, it's just R&D, just R&D. It's just R&D. And I'm like, yeah, like I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about another culture, but I learned so much about farming and plants and like, so come home and in the society or I don't even know the right word, world, the society, the people around me, that would be like, oh, you didn't make it. Oh, like it didn't succeed, oh, you're not, it didn't grow. And it's like, and it's a weird, like, thing that happens in my mind as an entrepreneur. It's very like it can knock you down very quickly, so I've just started adjusting my definition of success. You can call it semantic, and I've been told, oh, that's just semantics. No, it's hard. It's a hard issue. It's like, I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to get up. I'll be the first guy here at 4 a.m. and I'll stay till 11. And if there's a flood because I forgot to turn, I'm here. And if there's an issue, I take it on personally and it becomes mine. I don't think that's an entrepreneur thing. I think that's just a normal, healthy person thing. And I think that that's the mix for me, is like just being a better version of what I have been. And I want to help people. I want to help someone else with an idea or a desire or something to prove, to jump in and do it. And I that's rare, I think.
Yeah, I think in some ways it is rare. It's not that, because we all are working on knowing ourselves, but it seems like there's a lack of people who are even undertaking that. And it's like when you start a business like you guys did, you're forced to find out who you are. Like that, to me, it is not so much about the lettuce. For me, I do video production. It's like I'm always working on making sure everything's in focus and everything looks good. But it's not that necessarily. It's who was I when I showed up on that film set versus the next day versus the next day.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a tough one, when you especially have kids, right? Or teenagers and
right. Well,
you like, I don't want to make light of being bipolar or something, but we constantly joke because like I got so many things going on in my head. If something is, said the wrong way or an email comes in or something, and then I'm like, oh man, just part of who I am. I don't like letting people down. It's one of my struggles, right? It's like, oh man, I let that person down. But now I'm carrying that in the back of my mind while I'm training someone on the farm and we're trying to get stuff out the door. And like, it just starts, it's like in a volcano, right? It can really catch up to you. And, but that's also part of relationship and part of, being in family is like, yeah, we're going to have our off days. We're going to have our moments. Right. And sometimes you're grumpy, sometimes you're not, but it's like, we don't hold each other so much to that bar anymore. There's no excuse to like be abusive, obviously, verbally, you know, but I'm saying like there's a level of humanity that we're okay to function in, and as long as we end up back in relationship. And I can say that in my 30 years of being in the church community,
Right.
and pressure that exists around that, like it's almost like we have to have all our junk figured out, and then we can be used by God on, or like be an asset to society. And try not to relate so much to the Christian side, but just like get your crap together and then you're useful to me. Or, you know, I'm actually wanting to start a podcast here very near. I might be picking on your brain here.
Sure.
And it's gonna basically be around, you know, the not so little guy, because it's like we only want to hear from the Elon Musks and the Bill Gates and all the stars in Hollywood. But there's people like, I'm not calling you small, but there's people like you who are,
I'm small,
that are doing phenomenal stuff that are, you know, $1,000 or whatever. It's like 500. Or there's people that have a passion to feed the poor or do things or have an entrepreneurial thing that, they'll never be $1 million company, but nobody ever gets to hear from them because they're the little guy. And it's I want to change that stigma. It's like, man, I meet so many cool people at these little markets and things that have just a passion inside them. And, you know,
that's been a blessing of this show. And you'll find that when you do it, is that everybody has a story worth telling. Like I could have never imagined reaching out to you guys, what I would get out of this conversation. Right. And imagine now everybody has a life of that volume going on. And it's incumbent on people like us to tell their stories if they don't feel the need to, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a American Idol fanatic.
Oh, really?
Especially for like the first.
Let's pause and go into that for a minute.
The tryouts, the tryouts and the people that get on there and, you know, they're just raw and they're who they are and they don't even know they have a good voice and they're not dressed to the part. And then you can actually progressively watch them get put into mainstream media and formed and shaped and dressed and hair. And it's like, I almost get like, I get angry near the end because I'm like, that's not who you were when you came on, you know?
Whoa.
And I just love the gold. Like I find myself crying regularly because I'm just so just enamored with the fact that people come out of crappy situations, always worse than I've had it, always worse than the next guy. And then and they sing, and they like, nobody believed in me. And like, I don't know how much of it's staged. Whoever's doing it is really good at it if they are. But I just love that the raw, authentic human that comes and they're just in front of you. Here I am. And they're accepted. You know, I just love that. And I think there's a lot of people out there missing that acceptance.
Well, even just in business, like I find that, you know, just acts of kindness and thoughtfulness and quick responses and the service levels where it's not just really about making money for us. It never, you know, obviously we've had to survive many years. So you do have to make a living, but it's not really about the money. It's about the people. And so there's those calls that you make, the emails you respond to, the people, it doesn't even matter who you are. Everyone is just a human being.
Right.
So whether I am a Buddhist or a Christian, whether I have no belief at all, that person is still a human being. And so for me, you have to have this heart of kindness that you can care for people. And it really sets, especially the marketing piece, it sets our company completely apart because I care about that business as if it's my own business. And so when I put them into the teams and I put them in places, I find that I want to make sure they're cared for. And so like there's people that show up and they've just never been cared for. They've never been shown kindness. They've had to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks for an update. They've just never, like sometimes I give away lettuce to someone's like, oh, you know, I could tell like someone said, oh no, I know that's a bit too much for me. And I could just tell, I'm like, man, you guys, so I say, hey, listen, you know what? I want you to have a good day today. And I give them a free combo pack and I say, hey, have a good day. Healthy food is available. Like you don't need to, it's fine. Just don't take it. So that there's just this thing that sets you apart where it's like, you can have this crazy story. You can have an awesome story. It doesn't even matter because we are all human and we have this, there's no one like, hey, you're up here and we're down here, or hey, look what we've done and look what you haven't done. just like we're all living these incredible lives and we have incredible crisis and trauma. Everybody has the stories, everybody has them. And so there's something about being kind and thoughtful and caring in your everyday life with these people. And with us, I'm not these people, I just mean like with all of us, like, and so there's something that sets people apart when you do business like that, which is really an overflow of our value system. It's just that it's not separate for us. We're not like, okay, here's our business, Becky, here's home, Becky. I'm just like, if I'm grumpy in business, I probably was grumpy at home that day. Like, it's just the same. And so that's something that, you know, is a huge consideration, is like leveling the playing field. We've all been through stuff. We're human. And that's how we can be kind and do life together. Yeah.
I call it the comparison killer. Someone who's growing in their basement with a 1 NFT pipe comes into my farm and they're like, holy, you're brilliant. You're a genius. How did you do this? Must be so expensive. How are you doing this? And then I walk down the street and I go to the greenhouse and I walk in and I'm like, holy crap, how did you do this? This is so big. I wish I could have that. And then they fly to Vegas to the hydroponics show and they go to the biggest farm in the world and like, holy crap. Like, it's this comparison thing. It'll eat you alive. It will destroy you from the inside out. I struggled for years. And I still, some days I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm growing 600 heads of lettuce. But then I meet someone, they're like, this is the best lettuce I've ever had. I can't believe it. I am never going to go back. I can't go back to the store. And I'm going, that's kind of cool. Like, we accomplished that. And I'm like, I don't have to then compare myself, And so I think there's so much in there to say about that comparison thing. But
why do we do it? Why do we do it?
Yeah.
Why do we compare?
I think that people say they don't really know who they are and they struggle to know who they are. I think that it's even before that. I think it comes down to the expectations on yourself. Like, or not even, I don't know how to word it. Like we always say, like, unspoken expectations will kill every relationship, right? Like, if I don't communicate what I'm like, okay, so for example, I'm not going to hack on you. I didn't get a pre-question for this podcast, right? So like, I technically have no idea what your expectations are. And so if you come into this going, well, I was expecting this and I brought that, well, now, we don't meet where we're supposed to meet.
Sure.
And I think that because of the way we grow up, the way of culture, the way of just life, we create these false expectations and they sit inside of us, and we think that we have to constantly meet these expectations and the pressure to succeed. And as we get older, we get really good at managing our emotions. And, and if life happens and trauma, it starts building. But still way down in the bottom of those roots is this expectation that we've set. And then we blame society and we blame we blame parents, we blame life, but really it's like there's something down. So I've started dealing with just expectations on myself. And here's how it happened for me. Every now and then I do curse. So I'm going to curse just to make my point. It's like, I was sitting in my farm the other day and I'm like, I realized that no one really gives a shit. Like, if you wake up tomorrow morning, Patrick, are you going to concern yourself whether or not my plants grow in my farm?
I mean, I might think of you for a minute, but
yeah. But like, if I called you like, Patrick, the farm is dying, all my plants are going to be gone, wouldn't change your life. Essentially, you probably feel bad for me.
Maybe I feel bad. Yeah, it would inconvenience me.
People get in their car, they drive to their job every day. I don't care what they do in the day. I don't care if their boss is angry at them. It's like,
you can't.
Like, if this thing fails, it's Becky and I. It's like no one cares. So then why do I care so much about what everyone thinks? Like, if they're not going to give a shit and they're not going to come pitch in, then why do I care?
Right.
It's like, that sounds real, maybe like kind of like edgy, but I'm like, so I have nobody to impress. I have nobody to meet their expectations except customers. And my wife and I have committed to each other that we won't quit. We're going to keep going forward. It's just part of who we are.
Right.
And so I don't have to question whether or not my wife is going to quit. Not marriage. I mean, like the business.
Yeah. I mean, she might.
She's not going to be like, I can't do it anymore. because we've proven over 22 years that we're not quitters. We're not going to quit.
Right.
And so that like takes 100 pounds of pressure off our shoulders. I don't have to do this. I don't have to impress anybody. There is no expectation. And we expect that we try and love each other better every day, and we accept people. My wife's probably better at it than me, but that's just a result, I think, of unspoken expectations and things we don't come to grip with in our heart. And that's not easy to unpack. Like, that's tough stuff, you know.
But I also think like it comes back to like to this whole society, like there's so much pressure to perform. Like there's just an amount of pressure to be successful, like these people that we see on stage or on Instagram or even our cities. Like there's just so much pressure to perform and have this level of success. And who says that's successful? I don't know who I know, but I don't know. And so that's why our
falling apart, kids committing suicide. Like there's
I think that we have to adjust, like Mike said, expectations and adjust our, because if you think that success is $1 million, the chances of you getting $1 million, it's really slim. Like if you look at the statistics, like there's, okay, well, yeah, maybe you can. I believe that we could do that. But if that's what you're trying to do, then when you make $250,000 in 2 years of business, you are going to be very upset. Right. And the weight that like comes on you. So you have to really just take a moment and wipe the board clean of what success is, wipe it completely clean. And that's one thing that we do. We celebrate small beginnings and we celebrate small successes all the time. Yeah. So that makes that changes the entire mindset, because when I go and I have a new subscriber, it sounds ridiculous. I had 3 new lettuce subscriptions last week, 3. And they're because I did some groundwork and I went after some people that I back
like $60 a week or something like
that. Like I'm talking that this is small, but I'm like, oh my gosh, more people are buying our lettuce. This is so flippin' exciting. Instead, you could be like, man, I needed like 40 subscriptions this month. I don't know. I only got 3. Right. But the fact is I got 3 new clients, and that's huge. So like there's small beginnings, and those are super important. And then there's small successes. And if you can maintain that through every season, so $250,000, $500,000, but you still celebrate every client and you still celebrate every small win every day, then you're successful. Then I am continually successful, and I never have to make $1 million. And if I do, I'm the same person as I was when I had 100,000. That's the beauty of that concept, is you actually are the same person. You're not like, oh my gosh, I've arrived. And then you have a complete mental breakdown because you don't know who you are. So you backtrack and you just start celebrating small successes, small wins, and you just keep doing it through life, because that's what life is about. It's about the common, everyday, step by step. And that's how you win. That's how you be successful. Not with the big, it's just every day. And so I'm going to be the same person I am, whether we have 5 businesses and millions of dollars. I will still find the deals. I will still, wear my same tights that I probably had for 2 years and then go get 1 new pair. Like I'm still going to be the same person that celebrates the small wins with you. And I think that's how you can take that weight off your shoulder, take the expectations off, wipe the board clean, and just start focusing on the small wins. Because if we didn't do that with the farm, like we might have completely given up, because we had such a traumatic expansion. And it was very hard. And so we had to be like, oh my gosh, I can see some roots again. Oh, this is huge. Let's celebrate roots, And so it's very like small, but it gets you to the next day, and then it gets you to the next day. And then we're here. We're like, oh my gosh, look what we did. So that's just something I think that really needs to be adjusted, because I don't think when I see someone with a Porsche, I instantly don't be like, oh my gosh, they're so successful. I go, man, I hope they're okay. Yeah. Is that their identity? Yeah. I don't know.
Could well be. And that's it right there, is suddenly people are putting that meaning in for success on an external thing. But we're truly, everything we need is right here in this Zoom conversation. Yeah. That's a wild thought. And I couldn't have said any of that better, Becky, so I'm not even going to really bother. So thank you for saying that. I guess I just and they're going to boot me out. I got 10 minutes and we're getting to the end of it anyway here, but I was really surprised to see that Canada, I don't know how much of this you guys concern yourself with because it's big picture, and we were just finished talking about how the smallest picture is probably the one to look at, but is there a future for this kind of sustainable farming throughout Edmonton? Like, is this maybe what 50, 100 years down the road looks like? Canada is the second largest importer of lettuce. That to me seems like a problem when you can grow it in a I could grow it in my basement if I wanted, or maybe a warehouse.
Yeah, I'll say, I know a couple companies. I'm trying to remember the names. Maybe Becky can help me. I talked to them in my early days. What's that one, Beck, that grows in the containers?
Oh yeah. Well, you can just say container farms, Sonny.
Yeah. So what they do is they have a big building down the middle, and then they shoot off with these container farms, and they all grow specific things, all automated. It's quite expensive to start. But one of their primary focuses is to knock out the importing. So produce a healthy product and knock out the importer. And so, if it's done right, that won't be done by tomorrow. Like, it's something that's going to build over time. I think of Calgary's got quite a few companies that have started popping up in our sector. Okay. And like, people worry about competition, but I don't, like I said, I can feed, say, 500 families. There's 800,000 families. I would hope that people come into the city, they do it, and we could partner. What a concept. And they're like, well, I actually prefer to grow tomatoes, cucumbers, and whatever. And why don't we partner? I think, what a concept, instead of beating each other down and feeling threatened by each other. I don't really follow that logic. I would say this, we've already got a leg up on any competition because, one, we have a marketing company. Like, we're pushing 300-400 clients now.
Nice.
That have touched our business at some level. If we were at 1,000 customers, and we would have a revolving door of residual income that we would not be able to expand. But do I think it can solve the food issue? I really do. Yeah. I think that if our government got on board and gave tax breaks to companies that are producing food, which I don't know if would ever happen because there's so much behind the scenes that happen with that. But if there was incentives for people to do what we're doing, I think it could really explode. The University of Lethbridge, there's a guy down there, I can't remember his Solonov. So anyway, and he just got another $8 million or something in a grant to test aquaponics on a further level.
Okay.
I think that money and time will produce something. I don't know if it'll solve our food crisis because lettuce, it's not everything, but I have a colleague in Vulcan. He grows 1,000 tomato plants and he provides to a local Sobeys place,
Really?
But it's going to take another 1,000 of these companies to do it. I mean, I went and got my brand new vehicle or used vehicle logo the other day. Like, there's 1,000 printing companies in Edmonton and they're all thriving and booking in 2 weeks in advance. I'm like, why can't we have 1,000 indoor farms feeding everybody? And why do we have to pay for such garbage? Like, it really is terrible food coming. Sits on a truck. It's horrendous, Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm a bit of a dreamer. I think we could solve, if not 75% of the problem. I really believe we could,
I also think there's a lot of up north, their food is so flippin' expensive. For them to eat healthy up north, it's nearly impossible. They're paying quadruple what it costs for food. And so you just go ahead and get some building, get a triple car garage for goodness sake, and start growing hundreds of lettuce for communities. And now you could charge half of what is charged and they would be saving money. Yeah. And you could create entrepreneurs, small business owners, and be food creating, solving the food problem up there because there's a massive food problem up north.
And it's limited by seasons, right? Like, they wait for the ice. And I was up in way up in the Northwest Territories years ago, way back 15, 18 years ago. And I remember we went into the store and I almost died when people pay for just pop, 12 pack of pop. It was $26, something ridiculous.
It's outrageous and that's in Canada. We're not even talking about like we're in some village somewhere. We're talking about our own people up north that don't have access to fresh food. And if they do, it's not even affordable. Yeah. And so this is something like these are ways to create fresh food in our country that's healthy and sustainable and can create business, because people can live off this business. They can create a company that they can survive on, more than survive, they can thrive. So this is definitely, especially our model where you have like a 2,200 square foot building, you can grow, you could max this to 1,000 heads a week. It's perfect for communities.
We can get to about 2,200 heads per week if we fill the room. So we can get anywhere between 8,000 and 9,000 heads a week. Now that's a pretty big operation in my opinion. That'd probably be 4 or 5 people running it. But like up north, you could, I know there are companies that put sea cans and things up there, and they do that. Okay. But again, you still you can't open the door in minus 45 degrees and you'll freeze everything in the room, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit misleading because you need a building. It has to be attached. You've got to heat that. There are other ways to do it, I think, that are way more efficient, I think that's a pretty good outlook, I think, on that food security and,
maybe there's a next step there for you guys. I just want to hear, I'm going to wrap it up. It was great to talk to you guys. I think there's obviously far more we could say, but for now, if people want to get on the lettuce program, they want the lettuce mobile to roll up to their place. How do we get in touch with you guys? How do we find out more about Vertical Roots?
So the best way is, there's a couple ways. We're on Instagram. Just make sure you do Vertical Roots Canada. So we're under Vertical Roots Canada. There is another company in the States that's Vertical Roots. So you need to add Canada on there to get ours.
Okay.
So that's Instagram and Facebook, same handle. And then of course, verticalroots.ca. That's our website. And we're super responsive on social or website contact forms. That's how you can get a hold of us. That's how you sign up. We have subscriptions. We do delivery to your house if you want to pay for it. And we also have pickup locations that are across the city, Sherwood Park, Toefield, where we just drop, your lettuce. You can go pick it up and that's free. We don't charge for that.
Yeah. And I mean, anyone out there as an investor or an entrepreneur who has maybe an interest in this, we do have some type of a consulting package where you can actually take the name, take the company, get the marketing, put it in another city. You pay a one-time fee and then you get trained by me, fully functional support 24/7. So like there is a whole nother piece to this business that we haven't even really rolled out. But like, Grand Prairie or Red Deer, like places that have, a good size population that this could impact. We want to be able to plant that somewhere and have someone run it and have the full support of me and all my years of experience now and hours upon hours. Right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
I think you'll find that person. I just want to thank you guys so much for your time and your wisdom. This went really well, and it was really illuminating for me. And I wish you guys the best of luck in Vertical Farm or Vertical Roots and whatever's down the road.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate the opportunity, and it's been great to get to know you also.
Yeah, you guys too. All right, you take care and good luck. Happy growing.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for watching this episode of the North Bank Media Podcast. Please like and subscribe below and give this episode a thumbs up. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at North Bank Media Podcast for highlights from past conversations and be notified of upcoming episodes.